emergency of numerous 911 reference shots fired at Kelly Elementary. We're getting a description now, possibly a male armed with a gun. And it looks like a resident has the suspect down on the field, fighting with him near the playground.
Fort Johnson, additional unit code 3 also for cover.
Front 3, Adam, it looks like the suspect's now being held down at Kelly and Hillside.
Hello, I'm Megan Kirsch. Student Television Network and the PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs have joined together for a very unique project. We asked 8 high school broadcast journalism programs from across the United States to collaborate on a single theme, in this case, school safety. Acts of violence, particularly gun violence, are not uniquely American, nor are they anything new. School shootings in the United States can be traced back as far as the mid-1700s. And yet there's been a documented increase in school shootings over the past 2 decades, and the 24-hour news cycle has made it feel like an epidemic. But below the surface, there's a lot more going on. Let's take a look at how school districts are making dramatic changes and rethinking what it means to feel safe and be safe at school. Our film begins at an elementary school in Carlsbad, California.
Friday, October 8th, 2010 began as any other day begins at this suburban San Diego elementary school. It was lunchtime, and the students were heading out onto the playground. At about this same time, 41-year-old Brendan O'Rourke pulled up to a curb outside the school. He was armed with a .357 Magnum revolver, a red gasoline can, and a propane tank.
It was a typical Friday. Everyone was wearing their spirit wear. It was very relaxed. We heard what we figured later was the last gunshot.
We heard over the walkie-talkie the custodian was yelling that somebody was shooting at the children.
There's a loud bang and everybody thought it was just like a big firework, and so everybody's looking up, like up over there because that's where he was, and everybody just like looks up at everything and nobody knows what's going on, and then a few people start screaming and then everybody starts screaming.
It's lunchtime, and Carson and his friends are out on the playground. The loud ping that he hears is actually the sound of a bullet from a .357 Magnum handgun hitting this metal pole, only about 10 feet away from where Carson and his friends were playing.
You see a man who looks like he's wearing all black, like everything, all black, like a beanie and a shirt and long sleeve, and he's just running with a gun.
He ends up shooting a couple rounds and ends up getting confronted by a school aide. At that point, he raises the gun, points it at her chest, and pulls the trigger. Well, he had a revolver. He ran out of ammunition.
Before running out of bullets, the gunman randomly shot 6 rounds into an open playground of children. 2 girls, ages 6 and 7, were caught in the gunfire.
His statements were, shoot them, burn them, blow them up, and I don't think he was planning on just, take a couple shots and leave. I don't think that was sufficient for him.
Alarmed by the students' screams, 3 construction workers who were working on the roof of the school noticed Brendan O'Rourke as he climbed back over the fence. O'Rourke had run out of ammunition, and he was heading back to his car to reload. The men were able to wrestle him to the ground after one of the workers hit the shooter with his truck. Nobody at Kelly Elementary School ever expected something like this to happen here.
My life won't be the same. I worry when I send my kid to school, that something could happen. It won't be the same. Our Kelly bubble was broken that day.
I think when somebody tries to hurt kids that badly, and we love these kids so much, and you think that somebody tried to do that to them, it's emotional. That hurts me that happened for them. And I'm also very proud of them because kids are super resilient.
Peggy Parrish teaches kindergarten at Kelly. As the school went into immediate lockdown, Parrish ushered 15 students and 3 classroom helpers into a bathroom. They would stay there for the first 45 minutes of the nearly 4-hour lockdown. So this is the bathroom that you were in,
yes,
with 15 kids, 4 adults.
Right.
How long were you in here for?
About 45 minutes. We were all in this one bathroom, and then I had some go into the other bathroom after about 45 minutes. And at the beginning, we were all just kind of up against the walls.
Right.
And then as time went along, and as I was reading and doing lessons, I had them sit down on the floor.
Right.
And so, yeah, it was cozy. It was tight.
Parents were asked to congregate in a nearby park. For nearly 4 hours, they would wait as law enforcement searched the campus, ruling out the possibility that there was a second gunman.
It was amazing to see them waiting in the park so patiently. They just waited. It was amazing.
Carson was asked to testify at O'Rourke's trial. His vantage point on the play structure allowed him to get a good look at the gunman. 4 years have passed since the shooting at Kelly Elementary School. It takes time to heal, and for some, the process can be a difficult one.
I think that, what if it happens again? What if somebody comes again and shoots at our school?
Kids are going to be in school for a long time, and I don't want them to approach every morning as a place that they're going to a place that's scary. You know, I want them to know that school is safe and that there are people, way more people, who are good people in the world than people who might try to hurt them.
Educators, not me, not just me, but everybody, the staff, will put their lives on the line for children. And when you know, push comes to shove and there's a big situation, the adults who are caring for the kids will put their lives on the line for them. And the public out there needs to be aware that educators are really dedicated to the kids and their care and will do what it takes to make sure that they're safe.
The shooting happened on a Friday. Meeting over the weekend, the staff decided to reopen school on the following Monday. This would be the beginning of an extraordinary healing process.
We decided that we really needed to celebrate a miracle and not let this incident destroy us, but help us come together. We wanted to choose love over hate and courage over fear, because that's how this community works together.
While a few families transferred to other elementary schools in the district after the shooting, the vast majority chose to remain at Kelly.
I decided to stay at Kelly because it really brought us all closer together, and I thought not to run away from your fear. I thought it was cool that even after that I could come back and feel safe.
When it comes to ensuring the safety of students, armed guards with uniforms and badges aren't the only people keeping a watchful eye out for danger. At Cedar Crest High School, students are taking safety into their own hands.
You know, the first thing I do when I wake up every morning is think about the safety and security of all students here. It's actually even before education, just because of school safety, how it's been in the media, and unfortunately, you know, things that have happened over the last number of years. I really did take it to heart that it could happen in, you know, good old Lebanon, Pennsylvania here at Cedar Crest High School. These aren't just our students, but they're our children. This is our community. I was actually out of the building the day that this occurred, and I received a text message from Miss May, who is an assistant principal here. She asked me if I could call ASAP. She had something very important to discuss with me.
What Miss May was calling about was a threat made by 2 students in March of 2014 to walk through these halls, gunning down students.
We have a great school community, we have great students here, and I would never want to lose a life over something like this. I have to thank and applaud the students who came forward and shared that information with Miss May, because if it wasn't for them, who knows what would have happened here.
I mean, I knew it was a threat, and I knew that if I didn't do something and if like my fellow students didn't do something, it could have been a pretty big tragedy. I sat at the one kid's lunch table. At first it was kind of like, he would kind of like bring it up every now and again, but it like wasn't a recurring thing. Then it escalated pretty quickly, and things were said and items were shown that just, I knew there was a serious threat. A couple weeks later, he started bringing this like school shooting thing up, and he would joke about it a little bit. And I was like, oh, whatever, I mean, I'll just let him go. And then like a month or two, it kind of like disappeared and like it didn't come up. Then he came with a map and was like, yo guys, look at this. This is what I'm gonna do. And I was like, dude, that's too far.
A lot of students looked at that as just a joke. The weekend prior to us receiving this information, there was an incident that happened outside of school that prompted some students to put 2 and 2 together and made them think that this might really happen. That incident made it real for a lot of individuals that yes, it could happen here.
After Matt and a few other students reported the threat to Miss May, an investigation took place that led to the arrest of the 2 potential shooters. It was after this incident that the seriousness of the situation was revealed to the public, causing the spread of various rumors.
I heard everything from like they had guns already in the school to he actually shot somebody, and just some really wacky ones.
The students and parents of Cedar Crest put the responsibility of safety on district police officers Kristen Hauk and Justin Schlotman. But as Matt has shown, a gun and a badge aren't always the first lines of defense.
I feel they did the right thing. They took some concern for the lives of their fellow students. There's no perfect scenario. If nothing was said, you can sit there and go through your mind, what could have happened, what would have happened. We reacted accordingly and made sure all the students were safe. You do your best to prepare for it. Having a proactive approach rather than a reactive approach is more beneficial. It's almost like the school's your community, and I'm only one person and I only have one set of eyes, and we can't be everywhere all the time. But the students, they're all over the place. Those are extra sets of eyes. Those are extra people in your community that are able to see what's happening. Some people might be afraid to say stuff, and it happens out on the street. It's not a bother. I'd rather investigate something and find out it's false rather than it be, somebody not say something terrible happened here, and that person has the guilt of, oh, I could have said something, but I chose not to. It's a form of community policing, and it's not snitching, it's doing the right thing.
In addition, I honestly think it's all of our efforts together to work together and identify potential threats.
Everyone needs to pitch in to keep everyone else safe. It just goes to show that one comment can just ruin your life. And I feel like it wasn't blown out of proportion because a lot of people make threats. You gotta address them because sometimes they'll actually turn out to be a real incident. And then you're the one that just shrugged off the threat and let it happen. And you have to live with that then for the rest of your life.
While many people across the country want to keep guns out of schools, Black River High School has integrated guns into an extracurricular activity so that students have the opportunity to learn about firearms and firearm safety.
In small towns at certain times of the year, when high school students hear the final school bell, many rush to the parking lot and drive straight for the deer stand, hoping to harvest a buck.
Their families are farmers or have lived in rural areas for most of their lives. Very passionate hunters. A number of people who they provide a lot of the food for the table by hunting, and so we have those students who have that experience from very early on of being out in the woods with dad and mom, and deer season is a holy season for them, and they get out and put the blaze orange on, and they have it on for the entire season, and they're filling the freezer with food.
So when Scott Getska, who owns a hunting preserve near Black River Falls, Wisconsin, talked to high school principal Tom Chambers about starting a sporting clay target team at his high school, Chambers took the request seriously.
One of the students in Black River High School came to me and asked me about starting up a shooting program in the high school.
And so at first I was a little bit apprehensive and leery, especially with all of the school shootings that have happened in the past, and the whole school safety concerns that people have.
Another concern for any school-related activity is liability. How can a school ensure the safety of its students and prepare for possible injuries? Getska brought in the Scholastic Clay Target Program, a program offered by the Scholastic Shooting Sports Foundation.
That was one of the reasons why we felt more comfortable with taking it on as a sport, is that they have that umbrella liability policy that they're able to carry, and there haven't been any accidents to my knowledge in the history of the sporting clays.
4 years later, the Shooting Tigers have been to national competition 4 times.
And we've had students go to nationals every year that we've had the club. So we've done extremely well. I think it just shows that we do have a lot of students that have that kind of interest, that have the aptitude and the ability with weapons and the desire to do well.
Meet Kiana Dobson, a high school junior. She made it to the SCTP National Championships in Sparta, Illinois, her freshman and sophomore years. Last year, she ranked 42nd in the ladies division. Most of the rifles belong to the athletes and are stored at home. The team practices with sporting clays at Woods and Meadows, where Getska has the area's only sporting clays range.
I grew up handling guns, so I guess I've handled them basically since I've been 10, 11 years old. My family has been shooting long before me, so that's kind of how it got started. We went and shot a sporting clays range, and I thought that'd really be neat. So we set one up ourselves, and then it's kind of growing from there.
The number of athletes participating in the SCTP has increased by almost 120% over the past 4 years. Getska and Chambers say one of the strengths of the club is that it attracts students who might not be naturally attracted to more traditional school activities.
It's something that you don't have to be strongly athletic or extremely smart or musical. You just have to have a willing to learn how to shoot.
In the end, the goal is to get students more involved by having a wider variety of extracurricular activities for them to choose from.
Firearms have gotten a bad rap when it comes to schools, and having the firearms and the firearm safety being an opportunity for the kids in school, I think that's why I do it.
I grew up around guns. It takes a while to get it under your ropes and just get going with it, but I don't regret it one bit. It's just a lot of fun.
Social media has changed the way we get news and interact with friends and teachers, but it has also become a platform for harassment and threats. When West Ranch High School was the target of a threat through social media, the school put new policies and procedures into action, learning important lessons along the way.
On May 6, 2013, 10% of all West Ranch students decided to stay home from their high school for fear of a gunman on their campus.
There were these gun threats targeted at West Ranch, so I didn't go to school the next day.
It was really weird. My classes were almost empty.
I was scared. I didn't want to come to school at all.
Taylor Rizzo was a sophomore at the time of the threat, and she too did not attend school the day after the threat.
I was kind of relieved that my parents didn't let me go to school because I don't know what I would do in that kind of situation.
I don't know what the school would have done to keep my daughter safe, so I just kept her home from school that day.
When West Ranch High School received an anonymous gun threat on social media, many students and parents responded with panic. They began wondering what exactly the school administration was doing to keep students safe. They began asking, how safe are we?
When students come to school, we take on the responsibility of the parents.
To lessen the concerns of parents, the administration uploaded their safety procedures onto the school website. Now parents can see how the school prepares to keep their kids safe in any sort of crisis. Mr. Crawford even showed me the PDF and the exact page that deals with an armed shooter on campus. I learned that the first thing all teachers are told to do is go into lockdown mode.
Attention students and staff, we are in lockdown mode. This is not a drill.
During a lockdown drill, we would instruct all the students to stay away from windows and doors. We would ask them to barricade themselves behind tables or desks as the teachers are locking the doors.
However, before lockdown even commences, the sheriff department is already on their way.
Where all the deputies assigned to the station go through an active shooter training. Basically, we'll come on school campus during the summer, and we'll do an event where we'll use simulation rounds, which are basically paintball rounds, to try and make it as real as we can possibly make it without using real bullets.
Once the situation is all clear, only the sheriffs and deputies know the location and have access to certain lock boxes hidden around the school campus. These boxes have the keys to all of the classrooms so that they can unlock them when everything is safe. On top of being more transparent, the administration tried to make students feel more confident in a lockdown situation. Being a school in California, the main safety drills being practiced were always earthquake and fire drills. Lockdown drills had never been a requirement.
To the front of the room somewhere and squat down and get low to the ground.
Now, the administration is making sure to do at least one lockdown drill per year. Their goal is to make lockdown mode as second nature to students as fire drills. Although students may be frightened at first when told to go into a lockdown, they'll know what to do and how to keep safe.
Human error exists. It will always exist. But our goal is to reduce confusion as much as possible in this type of critical situation.
When asked how she feels about her safety at school now, Taylor replied,
I mean, it would be scary, but I now feel confident and know what lockdown mode is.
I don't really want to think about what could have happened, but I'm pretty confident that the school would keep Taylor safe.
In the end, there's no real way to know how safe you actually are. Only the actions of others can determine that. As more threats and tragedies accumulate, many people fear for the lives of their loved ones more than ever before. But no matter how frightening these events are, the schools of America are using them to evolve their safety procedures to keep students safer than ever. We must all remember that the school administrations have taken on the role of protectors and are training and preparing every day to defend our children from dangers. The only thing we can know for sure is they will do whatever it takes to keep these students safe.
School shooting threats in social media have become more and more common. Is it possible to rethink technology and turn digital safety hazards into safety tools? Park Hill High School is doing just that.
It takes a village to raise a child, and Principal Brad Kinchlow is helping to raise 1,753 at Park Hill High School. With so many students to look after, safety is top priority.
Whether this threat is outside, whether it's inside, whether it's caused by man, whether it's caused by nature, whatever the source is, we want to be sure our students and our staff stay safe.
But a surprising predator that once lurked in the shadows has come into the light. It's not a force of man or nature, but the force of technology.
Social media is going to change the way they deal with safety.
Social media posts can issue warnings. They can warn people to stay away. They can ask for help, response. Sometimes they can get the word out faster than a 911 call. I mean, it's incredible how quick that information, it's immediately out there for everybody, and anybody who recognizes that person or that situation can respond.
Kids are on Twitter and social media all of the time. Most of the time they are on their phones, on Twitter.
Park Hill South, a neighboring high school in the district, had to hold tight reins on this unpredictable beast when they were placed under lockdown in 2013.
What happened was that someone called in a threat to Park Hill South, and the threat was very vague, but it was still serious enough to where we had to take action and lock down and shelter in place until we could, get here.
Had to go to the bathroom during that time, got hungry during that time, got thirsty during that time, and did not know what was going on. Tried to be on the internet and follow the news reports. And I know that the news reports were relying on any information they could get. And some of that information was being tweeted out from our building.
Because of the immediacy of social media, word got out at breakneck speed.
And they didn't really tell us what was going on. There's an announcement that came on. They said, hey, just close the doors, stop class, be quiet, just everyone kind of sit tight. And it was really nerve-wracking for a lot of students.
A lot of kids were just kind of, texting other kids, and everybody was trying to figure out what was going on. There were definitely some stories that were stirred up that weren't necessarily true or even fact-based.
Through this quick output of information, local news outlets became aware of the situation and began to investigate alongside the district.
There are ethics involved. I can't just take one person's word for it without verifying it with someone else. So then we check with the school. How else can we back up this information? Check with the local law enforcement. And what we'll often find is other students' accounts start to come out. Do those match? Do they vary? Are there inconsistencies? And all of that information can help you figure out which is credible information and which isn't.
You can also disperse a lot of bad information, information that could cause panic with relatives and parents.
When the lockdown was lifted, it became clear that in situations like these, social media can be both a safety hazard and a safety tool.
The biggest challenge in front of us is how do we teach each other and how do we teach kids the power that this has?
The district always has people on watch for situations just like this one.
I look for what people are saying about the school district and what they're saying about the schools. It could be something positive, it could be something negative. It's just important that we know what's being said.
As we all know, with great power comes even greater responsibility. But in the case of social media usage with teenagers, responsibility is lacking.
For some reason, humans seem more comfortable sharing with one another as long as it's not face-to-face. Sort of a mental health issue and the mental safety, the emotional safety of students with social media.
If they're having a problem, if they're getting bullied or harassed or anything online, you're kind of in control. You can block the person, you can contact that social media site and let them know what's going on. And there's a saying I always tell them too, it's what you don't open can't hurt you. So if you don't open it, you don't read it, it's really not going to affect you.
I think kids can be very ignorant on Twitter. Like, I could see someone tweeting something really, really not appropriate.
Teaching kids how to use it properly might not be a wasted effort. There might actually be some validity to that.
Administration and schools need to be more media savvy. Just like presidential campaigns manage information that leaves, we need to train our students to understand that, hey, you don't talk to the media. You have a right not to talk to the media and privacy, things like that. Maybe have that as part of the training.
Though it takes a village to raise a child, it takes a whole community to keep children safe. By using schools as the catalyst for change, the overall safety of students everywhere could improve.
Across America, school districts have partnered with their local police departments for access to uniformed school resource officers. Alonzo and Tracy Morning High School is in Miami-Dade County, Florida. Their district, the 4th largest in the United States, has a very unique relationship with law enforcement.
The U.S. Department of Justice promotes the use of school resource officer programs to enhance a safe and secure school environment. Miami-Dade Schools Police Department is part of the 4th largest school district in America.
Well, as a school district, we are uniquely positioned not only in the state of Florida but across the country. We do have our own police department with over 200 police officers and command staff. Miami-Dade County Public Schools has a long history of having a police department. In fact, the presence of the police department in Miami goes back about 40 years. It started out small, it has expanded. At this point, we have at least one police officer in every senior high school as well as every middle school. And then we have a number of police officers who are attached to a combination of elementary schools. But it was not a single occurrence that created the police department. It was just a recognition that having a police department was a value-add proposition that would enhance safety and security around schools. It's about being able to see something, do something, prevent something.
About a year and a half ago, I found out that DHS has this program called See Something, Say Something, and they had teamed up with colleges and universities and local agencies, but they had not teamed up with a school district. So what it does is it allows us to market See Something, Say Something through social media, through other angles. At the same time, we call upon the public to, if they see something and they say something, through the Department of Homeland Security, they're to call us in. That information will come to us, and I can tell you that we get a lot of calls. There's a lot of follow-up that occurs after hours. We follow up on things morning, afternoon, nights, weekends to make sure that the schools are safe. We get information coming in, we get anonymous tips coming in, and we go out and work with our local, state, and federal partners to make sure there's no threats to the school, no threats to students, no threats to staff, no threats to parents.
It's a story we're reporting on tonight because other students at Brownsville Middle School did what school children are told. They saw something and they said something.
Anxious parents and dozens of Miami-Dade Schools police officers rushed to Brownsville Middle School after a report that 2 loaded firearms had been brought to school.
Very recently at one of our schools, Brownsville Middle School, as a result of an anonymous tip that was provided to the police department by students through our See Something, Say Something campaign, a tragedy may have been averted. Police got a tip that there was a student with a gun on campus. The police officers were quickly deployed. They investigated quickly. They were able to identify the young man, apprehend the gun, and possibly avoiding a tragedy that unfortunately has become so common across the country.
Longtime teacher Carl Hoover understands the importance of having a resource officer on school campus.
Well, one idea that kind of stands true here is that a police officer should be defending us, right? Should be protecting us. And I do feel better when I see a police officer, for example, out in front of an elementary school. If there is a resource officer, outsiders, or someone in the school knows coming to the school with a weapon with the intent to hurt someone. It's been shown that with an armed, present officer who is visible, it greatly deters any outside attacks, or even people thinking about an outside attack. It may not, in the long run, keep that attack from happening somewhere else along the way, but I like to know, and I'm not a huge gun person, but I do like to know that we do have an officer who is trained in weapons and will deter people from coming to school who might end up killing or shooting a student.
At Alonzo and Tracy Morning Senior High, students display their opinions about feeling safe in school.
I do feel really safe at school. We have a police officer every day here at our school, usually parked out in the front, and our school's surrounded. We have many different security guards here, so I do feel safe. I feel like there's always people, making sure that we're all okay.
Well, it depends. Most of the time I do, but when, there's a fight going down or something, it's kind of iffy. You never know what can happen.
It's not very efficient for one police officer to, in time, protect everybody. So I feel safe because he's there, but in reality, I'm really not safe, and I could easily be hurt or harmed at any given moment. I'm very vulnerable.
I feel safe in school because I feel like there's security cameras everywhere, and if something were to happen, the situation could be handled and seen quickly.
The very disruptive, caustic, catastrophic impact, both physical and emotional, that takes place anytime there is a shooting on campus. That really injures the soul of America. And in an era of social media and 24-hour media cycle, certainly that one single incident disrupts our belief that schools are safe. But the data is there and the data is strong. Schools are safe. Children and young adults who are in environments where they feel that their own safety may be compromised, certainly they're concerning themselves about something beyond reading, writing, and arithmetic. And that's not something we should expect, certainly in our schools, but also in our streets and in our communities.
There are lots of creative ways schools are building safe environments for students. The Junior Firefighter program at Jersey Village High School is a perfect example. This unique organization gives students the chance to volunteer as first responders to protect their school and their community in times of need.
Ask us to secure the building. We feel confident that while it's still not all clear in the neighborhood, that we are okay to go ahead and move about within the building and continue our normal schedule.
I heard the fire call and I just figured, you know what, I'm going to pack up and do whatever they let me do. And I got off, I already had air pack on, and Chief saw me and decided, you know what, Patrick's going to go fight fire. So I went and fought fire.
I'm standing here in the middle of the fire station, located at the center of Jersey Village. Here, most people know their neighbors, and families have lived here for generations. Every day, junior firefighters come here to dedicate their time for the safety of their community. The city might be small, but the heroes are big.
My name is Patrick Moore. I'm a junior firefighter, been here about 7 months. I'm of the opinion that if no one does it, it won't get done. Someone has to do it, someone has to get the dirt. That's why I want to go in the military, that's why I want to do this.
I don't know if any other fire departments have the kind of relationship that we have with Jersey Village High School. We spend a lot of time over there. We are on first name basis. You know, we could walk through and they're waving and not even worrying about us being there. So it's unique.
So yeah, we still got that whole other half to go. There you go. I wanted to have that feeling of, you know, going out and rescuing somebody or helping out somebody. So, you know, just one day I just thought of, I guess, why not just do it?
The thing about being a junior firefighter that I like the most is probably being able to respond to calls and help out in every way I can.
At Jersey Village High School, there are 3 students who do their best to help keep the high school and community safe. These junior firefighters are given the opportunity to volunteer their services because they are part of this small city. They may seem like ordinary teenage boys, but their dedication to the community is more than extraordinary.
If you live here in Jersey Village and you are a junior or a senior and at least 16 years old, you can be a junior firefighter here. The junior firefighters get to go through Fire Academy and learn everything there is about firefighting, but they can only do that, and this is what's unique about it, they have to be passing every class. What it does for them is it also gives them discipline. It gives them great discipline because they have to make good grades, so they learn to study better, and it's just a great program. We're glad we have several of your students that are members in our junior program.
If you're worried about survival, if you're worried about things that would interfere with your safety, be it you directly or just a friend or just something that might happen in a commons or a hallway, you can't concentrate on what you need to at school. So I always say that academics is number one, but right there with that is school safety.
Lockdown, lockdown. We have an intruder in the building. Lockdown.
This is actually protocol for most schools, but it keeps them safe by, like I said, if an intruder was to gain entry into the building, we get all the students out of the hallway so they're not, the intruder doesn't have access to them. Then we try to lock them into a classroom so that the intruder can't get in there and harm them.
Now this is obviously a simulated lockdown. I'm here with 3 junior firefighters, Patrick Moore, Brian Taylor, and Alex Vu. And I'm just going to ask you guys some questions about what you could do to help keep everyone safe. Some of you are first responders. So Patrick, let's say for example that Maddie here is unconscious or otherwise she's passed out or something like that. what would you be able to do to help keep everyone calm and aid her?
So the first thing you would do is you take the pulse, and from there I could tell when the ambulance arrived what the problem was. I could help them get a head start on it.
All right, so it would definitely be a help to have you in the room.
I hope so.
As junior firefighters, what do you guys think is the most essential aspect of your role that could help keep everyone safe, calm, and protected?
In high-stress situations, you fall back on your training. You don't even, it's just instinct. No matter what you're doing, you're thinking about the situation and what you need to do, but it all comes back to your training, and very important.
Thank you. Well, with that in mind, I think everyone would feel much more safe and grateful to know that you guys are in the room when something like this would happen.
Overall, the efforts of staff members on campus, emergency services close to the campus, and students who are trained to assist during catastrophes create a sense of safety that isn't simply an ideal here at Jersey Village High School, but is more of an expectation for the high school and its students.
Finding a balance between school security and a comfortable learning environment is a challenge many schools face. Nobody wants to go to school in a building that resembles a high-security prison. Maui High School integrates security into the campus design, using nature, community, and science to protect and inspire.
Well, when I first came here, I thought it was really big. And I even had to use a map to try and find my way around. And I think I'm still using it today, just to check and make sure I know where I'm going.
McKaylee Chalmers, a Maui High sophomore, has had her fair share of campuses. But after 7 schools and 5 states, something about Hawaii still stands out.
It's nice to be outdoors and get some fresh air.
The Aloha State takes advantage of its mild weather with vast, open, foliage-heavy campuses.
Yeah, Hawaii is a unique environment in that I think, as all of us here live here know, we have a climate that is pretty much comfortable year-round.
But over the years, Charles Kaneshiro, the president of an international architecture firm based in Honolulu, sees a storm brewing in his industry.
The majority of our schools in Hawaii are older, so they're designed to standards that existed 50 years ago. The more current schools are being designed with school safety in mind, and obviously that's because of Columbine, or more recently Sandy Hook. I don't think anybody 20 years ago would have even imagined something like that happening in a public school. I mean, we send our kids to go to school to learn, not to be killed.
With the recent influx in school violence, school districts located on the U.S. mainland have begun assessing what makes a campus safe. Luckily, many schools already have a security advantage.
Because mainland schools need to deal with the differences in seasons. It's one building, all enclosed, all the classrooms are within the building. So it becomes easier for them to keep kids safe, in my opinion.
Unfortunately, Hawaii's older schools are excluded from this comfort because of the island's traditional school architectures, which focused on a layout of multiple buildings and open campuses.
We're in an old building. Where's that? Oh.
Alkinsall has worked as a school resource officer for 3 years. He says he has noticed that with the rising risk of school violence, there are inherent challenges with protecting schools with multiple buildings.
Trespassers can gain access to our campus 360 degrees, making it nearly impossible for us to maintain a secure campus unless we had the manpower to hold hand by hand and surround the school. It's pretty much impossible to keep somebody out.
There's all this fear now that I might send my son or daughter to school and they may not come home. And so there's a tendency to want the schools to become a prison. And that's the trade-off. If we design our schools as prisons, then can you imagine the type of education that's going to occur in them?
Some are concerned by how the extremes of institutionalizing schools could impact students.
If there was bars displayed, metal detectors that they have to go through, there's this constant unsettled feeling. All of that creates a culture of anxiety and hypervigilance, which when you're in a hypervigilant state, which is watching out for danger, it's very hard to learn.
Toby Neal, a licensed clinical social worker at Maui Center for Child Development and a previous counselor at multiple Hawaii schools, suspects that fear-driven architecture may detach children from their roots.
We did not evolve inside of buildings, and I think the optimal learning environment includes nature.
Aware of this, architects attempt to lock crime out without locking students in.
I think architects are doing is recognizing that in order to balance the two, a good learning environment and a safe area is by having what we call zones of supervision. So instead of less glass, there's actually more glass.
Kane Shiro's Group 70 International hid safety precautions in plain sight when designing Hawaii's newest public school in Wailuku. Pu'ukakui Elementary School features large hurricane windows, which can hold form even when cracked to impact, open areas within immediate distance of protected spaces, unobtrusive chain-link gates which subtly control access points, a campus-wide alert system, and staff distributed so that every corner of campus is under adult supervision at all times.
It's not designing a completely tragic-proof school. You can't do that, and that would be a prison.
Ultimately, it's about balancing security with nurturing learning environments so students like McKaylee can enjoy what makes school school. She believes children should be able to
come to school and just focus on their work and seeing their friends and not have to worry about their well-being or anything.
From new ways of thinking about social media to designing smart campuses, addressing bullying, and helping students take action, schools have done some amazing things to make us all safer. We hope our stories have inspired you to think about your own community and what can be done to prevent violence in your school. We would like to thank the 8 high school broadcast journalism programs that contributed to this film. For Student Television Network and the PBS NewsHour Student Reporting Labs, I'm Megan Kirsch.